this interview for Enlace
Con
Judío.
mucho gusto.
Welcome to Mexico.
Gracias.
And what's the purpose of your visit to Mexico?
First of all, soy extraño. I missed Mexico. I was here 2 years ago in Phil in Guadalajara, and this is mi séptima vez in Latino America. Me gusta la lengua español, me gusta Latinoamérica. I was waiting for an opportunity to come here again. And the opportunity came because I have a new book in Spanish. Se le llama Amores Solitarios. So I am here officially to promote my book, but actually I love speaking Spanish and I love this Latin culture, music, people.
Food?
So food, of course, claro. So I'm just waiting for the right excuse to come. That's the truth.
Okay. What is the fact that you're the great grandson of Levi Eshkol?
Mm-hmm.
How did you grow up?
I didn't know him. He died before I was born. So whatever I know about him is through my mother.
But he left a legacy to you.
It's true, but I try to be very careful about it, because if you don't know a person personally, I think you should not. If I feel that I missed a lot because I hear a lot of stories about him, and people describe him as a very honest and warm. You say in Yiddish, mensch, a good person, and he was a politician. So usually politicians are not that good, and also he was a good father, which is amazing, because he didn't have time to be a father. But my mother, his daughter, says that he was a good father. So I can feel sorry for not meeting him. And if there is a legacy, it's not about him, it's about my mother, because she was the daughter of a prime minister. She is deeply connected to the país, the country, and she brought me up in that way, that I am a deeply connected, rooted Israeli. When I write my books, I think it is felt in what I write. If I have criticism, and I have really harsh criticism on my country and on the politics of my country, but it comes out of connection, out of love, not out of this sense of feeling detached. I am attached to my country, and because of that, I have a lot of criticism, and I care about it, and I get angry from my country. So maybe it's a legacy, maybe it's just the way I was, I grew up.
The Symmetry of Desire is
my first book in Spanish.
your first book in Spanish. How can desire be symmetric?
You have to read the book, and you will discover. It's about 4 friends, 4 amigos, and they watched the final of the World Cup in 1998, Mundial. ¿Cómo se dice en español? ¿Los mundiales?
Mundiales, sí.
Mundiales, 1998. And they have an idea. Let's write our wishes on pieces of paper, and everyone writes his wish, and we will open in the next final of the Mundial, and we'll see if we have fulfilled our wishes or not. Now, I can't tell you about the symmetry in this book because it's a spoiler, but something symmetric, astonishingly symmetric, happens with the cells, and I won't say nothing more.
I agree with you.
Nada más.
What is waiting for you?
What is?
Excuse me. What is writing for you?
Freedom. The ultimate total freedom. I can do in my books whatever I like. I can write about whatever I like. I can live the life I haven't lived. For example, I have a book which is called Neuland, and it happens. The book takes place in South America, my beloved part of the world. While I was writing it, I could not travel to South America because I have 3 daughters and they were really, really small. So instead of traveling, I really missed Latin America. So instead of traveling, I was writing about it. And I every morning I woke up, I had maps of Latin America, music of Latin America, and I had this imaginary journey. For 3 years, I was going from Peru, Bolivia, Argentina, with my personajes, with my characters, and I felt total freedom. I didn't need to travel to travel. I could travel in my imagination. And the same thing is with my new book in Spanish, Amores Solitarios. I saw this very strange thing in the world, a mikveh. You know what's a mikveh? Of course, we're talking about the Jewish newspaper. And mikveh was built in a Russian immigrant neighborhood in Israel. Old Russians, like 70 plus. And the stupid mayor built a mikveh in the middle of the Russian immigrant neighborhood. The Russian immigrants have no interest in mikveh, and the age of the women is not really, does not go well with the idea of the mikveh because they were all really, really old. So I saw this vision, I saw this place, and I thought, there must be a story. And I have to explain through my book how did this happen and what will happen now that you have this mikveh and the Russian immigrants. What kind of misunderstandings, funny and erotic misunderstandings, can happen if you have this situation? So this is my freedom. I can see something in the world and I can invent an explanation, not just to leave it like this, but to fill the gaps in reality with stories. And that's what I do. And because of that, I feel totally free. I don't care what nobody tells me what to write. All day I do things that I have to do. I take my daughters to the kindergarten, I take them back. I take them to activities, I take them back. I go to teach, I come back. I do a lot of stuff. I talk with the man from the bank, and I talk with the man from the tax authorities. But when I write, nobody tells me what to do. It's my zone, my free zone, free Wi-Fi.
I know you study psychology. When did you start thinking about writing?
Actually, it's connected to Latin America in a way, because I was backpacking in 1994, and my girlfriend, and now she's mi esposa, she was in Israel. So I was writing cartas, letters for her, and I would tell her what happened in the journey. But the reality was not enough, because there were days that nothing happened, waiting for a bus, waiting for a plane. So I started inventing mentiras, and I found out that I enjoy the mentiras más the realidad. And then I understood maybe I should be a storyteller, and this was the beginning. I started writing stories in the letters, and then when I came back to Israel, I started writing more seriously, like dedicating time.
Does Israel respect its writers?
I don't know. I was not looking for respect when I started writing. I wrote for myself, and then when my first book came out in Israel, I thought I was very lucky because there were people, most of the people who bought my first book were family and friends, but there were other people who bought my first book. And then my second book was a huge bestseller in Israel, so I felt lucky that people actually want to know, want to read what I'm writing to myself. And then my book started to be translated all around the world. And I don't think of it as a respect, but just an opportunity to touch other people's lives with your words. I don't expect respect from my country.
How was for you serving for the idea?
At the beginning it was a nightmare because if I like freedom, there is no freedom in the army. So for a person who is attached to his freedom, it was not a good experience. At the beginning I hated it. I was punished a lot because I wasn't a good soldier, and I had a girlfriend I really missed, and so I hated being away from her. But then it changed. Gradually it changed. I think after 2 years I got to a position that I could write as part of being an officer in the army, and that changed everything. So in the end, when I think of my army experience, I wouldn't do it again. I would definitely cut it by half. Instead of 4 years, I would do 2, but I got something from it. I got something, even the idea that you can cope with a crisis or with a challenge or with being really down and then pulling yourself out of this down and doing it and succeeding in it. I think it was important for me as a 19 years old person. But I wish people would not have to go in the army. It's not a good thing to be a soldier generally. I'm not, when I was a child, he would tell me, when you will grow up, there would be no army anymore. So now we are much less optimistic in Israel, but I hope someday it will not be needed. It's not a good thing for a child, and I think 18 is a child. It's not a good thing to be faced by violence and by moral issues that we have in Israel. It's not good for the alma.
What are your favorite subjects to write about?
Amores Solitarios was just published in Italy, and there was an event there, una conferencia, and the professor, he was a literature professor from Oxford, and he said that he thinks that the central theme of my books, generalmente, is erotics. And maybe he's right. I never thought of it this way. Definitely Amores Solitarios is highly erotic book. Maybe it's about looking for a home or a search for a home. When do you feel at home? With whom do you feel at home? What does it mean to be at home? Is Israel a home? What about the neighbors? What about a journey? What kind of perspective it gives you on your home? Maybe I would choose the word home as a central theme.
What did you talk about at the Senate?
I started with saying that I have a special relationship with Latino America Latina. I feel that this is como mi segunda casa, and I can't understand it. I was looking for my Latino raíces. In my family, I didn't find them. Sigo buscando. Pero no entiendo por qué. I keep on coming back here, and I feel very lucky to be in every time I come here and I speak Spanish. And after this introduction I did in Spanish, I talked for 3 minutes in Spanish from my página. I was so proud of myself. Not one mistake. And I worked on it for like 2 days in Israel. And after I talked about why Israel is a paradise for storytellers. Sometimes it's hell for citizens, but it is a paradise for storytellers because there's so many stories in this country. You know, you have grandsons and grandchildren there. And so I talked about the elements of Israeli society which are very interesting to a storyteller. The conflicts, the differences, the tension. For a citizen, sometimes it's very bad. For a storyteller, heaven. So this was my main theme.
I heard that you also write for children.
Yeah, I had one book for children, not translated. It's a book about a father going on a trip to Australia. And it's a story I told my first daughter before I went to Australia. And it's called The Father of Amalia is Going to Australia. And the book is about how does the daughter and her mother cope with the absence of the father. And it's a very beloved book in Israel. I went to my daughter's kindergarten 2 weeks ago to read to the children, and every one of them knew the book by heart. They were like filling the gaps all the time. So it's a good experience. And I tell my daughters a lot of stories before they go to sleep. Maybe I'll do another children's book, who knows.
And do you have something else you want to say to our lectures?
That I think it's the Jewish readers, right? I think Amores Solitarios is my most Jewish book. Not only because it has a mikveh in it, but also it has Jewish humor. So I will be very happy that the community will read this book, and I am looking forward to hear comments. I'm curious to know what will the Mexican Jews think about these books.